The following is a Cheeky Leprechaun production.
Pop culture is the entirety of ideas.
Me, Mario.
Let the bass kick.
I am the greatest.
Holy eggshell!
I am your father.
Episode 33 of the Pop Culture Experience. That's sounding right. What's happening? What's going on out there? Not much happening here other than Victoria, Melbourne, Australia, going back in to lockdown. So coronavirus sort of strongholding us a little bit, which is fun. 6 weeks we've been given to head back into lockdown. So if I didn't go stir crazy before, I might this time. That, or I might have to increase the podcast output just to keep sanity, keep a workflow, keep focused, keep moving forward. I'm so sick of this house. I'm now like, did I not make enough of the time that we weren't in lockdown, which was like, a month or something? Not long, but at that point you start thinking, well, I've got forever now because this won't happen again. And it has. We're back in lockdown. It's exciting though. I've recently signed up to Binge, which is another streaming service here in Australia, which is sort of a backdoor streaming service from Foxtel. Everything Foxtel have will be on Binge, which includes HBO, which was great. I've also ordered some new comics, which are on the way to... That was a panic buy. You know how some people go out to the shopping centre and they panic buy the food? I jump online, head to my favourite comic book store and panic buy comic books. So I've done that. That will be on the way to keep me entertained. I also kind of want to maybe give the guitar a little bit more of a go this next 6 weeks. Because, the first lockdown I was like, I'm going to be great at guitar by the end of this. And it didn't quite happen, largely due to not much practice happening. But this time I intend to give it a little more. Give it a little more. Today I got Justin on. Justin and I are back on Zoom. We're back in Zoom because, as I said, lockdown. So Justin and I were on there. I love talking to people in person, but I've got to admit, Zoom is such a great invention because, imagine just like at least 6 more episodes across the next 6 weeks of me just talking to myself. Like, that's fine, but I'd run out of stuff. So it's good to have somebody else on to bounce off. So Justin and I are on Zoom this week and we're talking a range of things, actually. We look at the recent Brooklyn Nine-Nine news, which sort of backdoors into cancel culture a little bit. Don't worry, it hasn't been cancelled. Just, it's related. We talk about that. We talk about Dune, the book Dune, if you're familiar with it, which Justin's reading at the moment, and there's a film on the way. We talk about that, and I tell you, any Star Wars fans out there, any Blade Runner fans out there, you'll be interested. What else we talk about? Bit of Beavis and Butthead. Loosely spoke about last week, unintentionally, not knowing there was going to be actual Beavis and Butthead news, which came out after last week's episode. So we dive into a little bit of that. Look, we chit-chat. We chit-chat a lot on Zoom. Let's head there now to my chat with Justin. He's back. Justin.
It's been a little while.
I'm good, man. What about you?
Yeah, all right.
It's a little bit sad that we're back to Zoom world, but did you make an appearance back when we could see each other in that small little window there?
Yeah, right at the start, right when we opened back up. So I guess I'm just the start and the end of this.
You are. You're the bookend to what is a coronavirus pandemic. It's great, isn't it? It's a nice little tip of the hat towards you and what you bring to the podcast.
Oh, it's always good to be back.
Exactly, mate. Thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it. What are you going to do with yourself this lockdown? Victoria's just gone into a second lockdown period, so I'm nervous I ran out of stuff after the first one.
I can honestly say that I'm still going to be busy. I've started my research, so okay. I don't get a break for the next year and a half now.
What research? What are we talking? Uni?
Yep.
So that's your smart stuff that you do.
Yeah. I'm still learning.
Did you hear I did the podcast with it may have been Jack when you weren't here, and we started talking about something space related. And we got down into this rabbit hole to a point where I think I'm corrected that it was Jack looked at me and gave me this look where I said to him, "You're probably worried about Justin hearing this, aren't you?" And him judging us because he's, very intelligent when it comes to this stuff. And I read his mind. He looked at me and goes, yeah, I'm pretty confident.
It can't have been worse when we were talking about Star Wars and having him listen in the background for that.
That's true. We did. We went down the Star Wars rabbit hole without having much of an idea of what we were talking about. And he did judge us for that. So
He tore us apart.
he did. So we're pretty even. We're even.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to bring up with you, I swear you were one of the people that originally told me to try out Brooklyn Nine-Nine back in the day. Did you watched it, didn't you? Or you still do?
Oh, I definitely was a big fan of the early seasons of it. But I think after when season 4 started, maybe I dropped off.
How
I think it was
come?
when I think they changed the producers or something. And I don't know, just for me, it felt like it became a bit more light-hearted or careful in its humor. Because I remember at the start, it definitely to be a bit more open. And if you go back and watch the first couple of seasons compared to, I don't know what it's like now because I haven't watched it, so I don't really want to judge it. But there was a different style of humor that came through at some point.
Well, that's interesting because what I wanted to bring this up for, I don't know if you saw, but they've stopped production not production, they've stopped even planning the next series, even pre-production, because they're trying to work out how to run a sitcom that's based on a police force, which, the current climate we're in, I hadn't even considered it. What a challenge that is for them.
Yeah, they have such a thin line that they have to skirt around with this to try and keep that humor that everyone's going to enjoy, not push any agenda or something like that, but I guess keep it, I don't know, that'd be such a hard job to try and write a show that works now with that in mind.
Because it's funny that you said the thing about them, you felt like they went a bit careful after a while. Because especially Andy Samberg, his comedy, especially on SNL, was largely based on pushing the boundaries a little bit. But I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with what you said, with the fact that they've decided to stop at this point, because it's a weird climate, isn't it? I mean, with the whole cancel culture that we experience now, everything's at risk of being put under the microscope and chopped down if people feel like it needs to be.
Although I got to say, it is interesting thinking that if they're trying to rewrite the show based on what's happening, they might actually be taking a bit of a different standpoint on it, in that they might be a bit more dangerous with their jokes if they're starting to think about it in this sense, because they could keep it as it is, not make mention of it. And I feel like that would be the safe route to go with. So maybe they are trying to work it into pointing out problems with their system.
Well, isn't that what it's all about? Because admittedly, I couldn't quite get into Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I tried a couple of times and it was a little bit too slapsticky for me. I just didn't. It's very loud, and I'm hit and miss with those. But what I got from it was the idea is they point fun at the police. It's meant to be, look at this dumb cop. Look how dumb he is. Doesn't that kind of work in their favor, or has the show evolved over time and it's not really about that? I thought it was about cops that are bad at their job.
Yeah, it definitely evolves into one of those shows that's just more about the characters than, I think, well, at least that's how I felt about it when I stopped, I think. That was probably one of the reasons. It turned into a, more of a sitcom style drama comedy or whatever those things are. It's definitely more about the characters' personal lives at a point than it is about their job.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe if they're working back into it being more about their job, then definitely I don't know, it could be funny if they're poking fun at it, because that's what it was at the start. You're right.
Yeah.
It was throwing up those stereotypes. You got the fat cops eating the donuts kind of thing. And yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't know. I think they've probably done the right thing by pulling it when they have, because at least they've made the decision themselves, rather than put the series out the next season and then get dragged across the coals for it. So probably a smart move. But I don't know about you. Have you had anything like this that you like, where it's been pulled due to cancel culture or anything, where you go, that one I don't maybe agree with, or that one, oh God, like what is safe anymore? Any questionable?
I don't think anything's safe anymore, because I think we're just like, as much as there is a lot wrong in a lot of societal, is that a word?
Societal, I think that is a societal issue. Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems. And, I mean, in a lot of cases, it's like, yeah, something needs to be brought up. But in entertainment, there's like, if you start pulling at all of these threads, and you've got, going back through the last 50 years, you've got landmarks of culture, and like in the media industry as a whole, you've got all of these massive historical moments. And what, are we going to just bin it all? Because every single one of those will have something that will offend some person. And some of those are more on a degree than other things are. And some of them are more serious than other ones are. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're never going to make everyone happy. And where do we draw the line? Or else everything's just going to get binned.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just think that, like, yeah, it's a really slippery slope, because you've got things like Gone with the Wind, where they're pulling that. You've got to be careful to not erase history in the process. Like, isn't there a certain importance to having Gone with the Wind on there, where you watch it, the same reason they make a film like Django, right? Where the whole, like, regardless of if Django is made with the intent of doing it, or a film was made at the point in time unknowingly what they're going to, represent after a period of time, isn't it important to have that representation so we remember, we don't forget? Oh, you start editing these things, or you remove them, like Gone with the Wind, which, is questioned for its representation of African Americans. What are generations to come going to have to look at and go, wow, that was really wrong? There's something beneficial to being able to look to something, point to it, and say, yeah, this was really bad at this point in time. It was really a good movie, but that also speaks to what society was like at that point in time. I don't know, there's something educational.
I think there needs to be a distinction in that those things stay, but, they have a disclaimer. So, I mean, rather than getting rid of all of these, like, episodes of TV shows, certain movies and stuff like that, as you said, 100%, that's a representation of the culture at the time.
Yeah.
And it's necessary to be there. And, like, people study those movies in school and stuff, not as like issues in people and stuff like that, but as the society as a whole, as the entertainment industry at the time. You don't explore these things as what it is now. You explore it as what it was then. And as you said, I mean, like, if they can throw out Gone with the Wind, but Django Unchained is like still one of the, it's an amazing movie and everyone loves it, but that's not got anyone pointing fingers at it. And, it does have a more protagonist view of the African Americans in that movie, definitely. But I mean, they still say a lot of things that aren't really, allowed to be said. And I don't know, where do you draw the line in that case?
Well, that comes back to what I was kind of saying, which is Django sets out to, so certain dialogue that's in that script that wouldn't be deemed, allowed now, is allowed because, well, we're representing it as a way where they shouldn't be saying this. Like, the terms that they use shouldn't be allowed. Same way that Brooklyn Nine-Nine, for example, positions its police officers as, they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. So by positioning the characters to be doing these things that aren't deemed socially acceptable, the joke is on them. And I say joke loosely, but it's pointing the finger at them. It's not, you're not laughing with them, you're more laughing at them. So I don't know if maybe that's what allows for some sort of protective barrier around certain content compared to others. I mean, Gone with the Wind, obviously, it's all just play on at that point. In 1939, nothing's really questioned. But yeah, I don't know. It is an interesting discussion around what makes something safe and what doesn't.
I think it's just dangerous because if we start, like, the idea of cancel culture, I think, is trying to pretend that things didn't happen. Because if you get rid of a movie off of streaming services and you can't buy it in stores or something like that, then you're pretending that never happened. You're just pushing it aside and putting it under the sheets, and so no one else can watch it and be offended by it. But then you're ignoring that it's been around for the last 60 years and tens of thousands of millions of people have watched it, and it did happen, and it did have an impact on a lot of people. And
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to be hiding like things. That's one of the problems where all of this stems from, is pushing these problems away. It's like, keep it there, tell people that it's got problems with it, but let people, watch it and explore what those problems are.
Yeah, you almost need to let people to decide for themselves, and I think that has the reverse effect sometimes when something is taken away from people, or somebody says no, this isn't acceptable, I'm going to take this over here. That's when the backlash comes. So that's when you see the social media backlash for things like Gone with the Wind or Chris Lilly's series, Summer Heights High, Angry Boys, all being pulled off Netflix, because you got to be careful there's something to say about the whole toxic fandom standpoint as well, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And these two things will clash. So if you've got these massive Chris Lilly fans, right? And his shows are suddenly all pulled and deemed by networks or whoever as socially unacceptable and, shouldn't be seen in this day and age, therefore wrong or bad. All right?
Yeah.
So now you've got this fandom, this fan base that will go the other way just to defend the thing that they like. And in the process, people end up start saying things that they probably don't actually believe, but it's all in order to protect the thing that they like.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think, like, how do you toe that line between removing something and saying this needs fixing, or we probably need to rethink the worth of this, and not upsetting a potentially toxic fan base, which I would think a Chris Lilly could have a certain kind of fan base.
Could be very toxic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that's possible in terms of not upsetting someone. Like, you're always, whatever the decision is, whatever, at the end of the day, when someone says, I'm putting my foot down and this is the way it's happening, someone's going to be upset about it.
Mhm.
You can't avoid it.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what makes us who we are, is we're very, like, we all have our own opinions and stuff, but a lot of the time people are very set in their ways.
Yep. Well, to that point, it's as simple as when somebody likes a movie and they don't like a movie, and then they will argue it. This is people protecting what they feel is important. And people will die on a hill, for sure. They will die on a hill.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know what I saw? So last week I had Stefan, who's a friend of ours, and we happened to we were talking at one point about the current state of animation and all the drama that's happened with that. And that sort of leads into that cancel culture, the whole like voice actors and all that stuff. And we ended up somehow backdooring into animation that maybe won't stand the test of time, things that maybe, like we're talking about, are a little bit risky, or that sort of a thing. And then, I don't know how, but we got onto Beavis and Butthead. Now, we actually didn't talk too much about it, but all we said was, could you imagine a show like that in this day and age? Steph was saying that she put on an episode last week, and her and her dad were like, oh wow, like this I didn't remember it being like this. This is pretty bad. Even her dad was like, this doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
the next day they announce that Beavis and Butthead is coming back. Did you see
Really?
this? You didn't
No.
see? Oh,
No. Oh my god.
amazing, right? So
Yeah.
they're bringing back Beavis and Butthead to, it's like some revamped format or something. So back in the day, it was just like them largely sitting on a couch or whatever. It'll be more like the movie was. There was a Beavis and Butthead movie where they like tour around America or something. Are you familiar enough to know how bizarre it would be to bring back Beavis and Butthead in this day and age?
It'd be a totally different show. Like,
Well, it would have to be.
yeah. It would. I don't know. You go back and watch any of those TV shows that we used to watch. You know, at 7:00 in the morning before school, and a lot of them would be very risky.
There was even the sort of scandal around Rocco's Modern Life. Do you remember that?
I remember hearing stuff about it. Yeah.
Yeah, how the generation that grew up with it as kids grew up to then dive back into it and were like, holy shit, this is like, hang on, he represents, pot smoking, whatever, all this sort of stuff. Beavis and Butthead cannot hold up in a climate that we live in at the moment. You would not think.
No.
I guess the only thing in their defense that I did see was that Donald Trump is still president. Therefore, there may be an audience. There may be an audience.
Well, okay. There'll be a big audience at that.
Yeah, there actually could be. But I was just so surprised with everything that gets cancelled now that a network, and it was Comedy Central, have turned around and said, yeah, let's dive back into Beavis and Butthead. That seems like a good idea.
I guess, comedy is the real kicker at the end of this. The whole idea of comedy is that generally you're offending people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really hard, for the big stand-up comedians to tell a joke that isn't going to have, probably 40% of everyone offended by it, because a lot of what big comedy acts do is they say, racist or sexist things. Generally, it's, as we were saying with like the Django stuff before, if it's like an African American or Indian comedy guy making jokes about themselves and their own experiences, and it's like, yeah, they think that it's funny on their behalf, but there'll be a lot of people still offended by it. Like, how do you control comedy? I guess with a really comedic show like that as well, maybe they can get away with more of it if they just brand it as, no offense.
Yeah. Well, that is it's the age-old question of what do you allow comedy to get away with under the umbrella of comedy? So similar to, I don't know, things like in The Office, how you'll have Michael Scott say something that is just either sexist or homophobic. But again, back to that point of the joke's on him. So it's sort of, if they frame a Beavis and Butthead in that sense of these guys are just idiots, which it always was. It was always the joke on them. They say some of the most outlandish, outrageous, dirty shit, but the joke's on them, so it's safe. It's such a... normally, I would say, yeah, it's in the name of comedy. Like, that's play on. In this day and age, I'm not sure if that will still fly. I don't know if you can still get away with it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of scary because you don't know if one thing you're going to say is just going to cause an explosion.
I would not want to be writing on the show, that's for sure.
No, God, they are really on thin ice with that.
Mm. Have you been watching anything else at the moment? Have you started anything new?
Oh God, I've been watching a few things. Well, speaking of comedy, I watched that Laugh Out Loud on Amazon.
So did I. I haven't watched the last 2 episodes because were they coming out once a week or was it 2 episodes a week?
2 episodes a week.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah, so I haven't caught the last 2. What did you think of it?
At the start, I was like, "Ooh, seems interesting. I don't know where this is going to go." But God, I was either looking at it and like really cringing, or I was pissing myself laughing.
Yeah, I reckon I was the same. It's funny because I because of especially what the last episode of the podcast was, I sort of had a few people flag with me, hey, I know you're watching that Laugh Out Loud. That's a reality show. I was like, okay, well, and I'm just going to put this out there now. As a defense, that's with actually talented
Yeah.
entertainment professionals, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Secondly, I agree. I went into it, I was pretty hesitant, largely based on, I was like, okay, it's a good concept, but how micromanaged is this going to be to the point of what's the comedy going to be like? I was shocked with some of the humor that they're running. It gets filthy. It gets real
It is
filthy.
messed up.
But I think I appreciated that. I think I liked that because it seemed more real that if you did put 10 comedians in a room, it's going to get pretty wild, pretty weird, and pretty dirty reasonably quick. What is it, a 5-hour period or a 6-hour period they have to be in there?
Yeah, 6 hours. And God, they just go insane.
It's amazing. I really found a new appreciation for some of the comedians too. It has been a good platform for them to put themselves on to get a new audience. Like Woodley, I can't even think of his first name, but
Frank?
What is it?
Frank?
Woodley, that's it.
Yeah.
I always knew he was funny, but now I actually have a genuine vested interest in this guy. Hilarious. And they actually got pretty good talent for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't mind that. I thought that was actually a pretty good show. I'm also watching... Have you seen Yellowstone on Stan?
No. Is it about the national park?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. I don't understand.
Wait, so hang on.
I don't have.
Why don't you have Stan? That's a good one.
I don't know. I'm really trying to be careful with my purchases of subscription things because there's so many now and they all look cheap. But by the time you have 6 of them, it's like $30 a month that you're splashing out or more.
That's
I had Amazon, Disney Plus, Netflix, and then, I've got Spotify. I had Audible, which I just canceled last night. And, that all of this stuff's coming out every month. And I started to be like, hang on, I need to cut things back.
Why did you get rid of Audible? Especially at the moment, mate. Did you see that Sandman is coming to it in audio format?
No, but I had a bunch of credits because I bought it for a particular book and then just kind of stopped using it. And I left it for like 3 months without getting a new book. And I had these credits. So I just spent the credits last night, canceled the account. And now I've got like 5 books on there to read.
What are the books? Hit me. Are we talking fiction, non-fiction?
A bit of everything. I got a couple of like...
It's nerve-wracking, isn't it? When somebody asks you what are the books you got and you're like, oh, this is almost too personal.
No, they're pretty obscure. I mean, I'm still finishing off Dune, but I just got the hard copy of that as well. And so I'm probably going to finish that in hard copy.
How big's the hard copy? Have you got it handy there?
It's on my other bookshelf in another room.
Run and get it for me.
Okay.
Run and get it. I'll fill time while you're gone because here's the thing with Dune, right? If you're not familiar, it's this post-apocalyptic story and it's an epic and it's meant to be this huge book, which I would love to read. But given how much I've heard how big it is, it just makes me a little bit nervous. So I want to see what this physical copy looks like. Hold that up for us there, Justin. Okay. Oh, it's a nice front cover. Yeah, all right. Oh, that's thick.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that it's that bad. I mean, just for comparison.
Have you got a Lord of the Rings or something there? Or
Well, this is
what's
Harry
that?
Potter.
Wow. Order of the Phoenix.
I mean, it is a like smaller size dimension-wise, but it's many more pages regardless.
How? Geez, I never knew that was so big. Is that one of the books that they split into 2 movies?
No.
No. Oh, wow, okay.
I don't know. I also got given, because I got this from a friend and they gave me the second one as well, which is considerably smaller.
Oh, so there's 2 books for Dune. I didn't know that.
Apparently. There's like, they have a bunch of spin-offs or sequels. I don't know. I think there's quite a few books.
So how far into Dune are you at the moment?
In terms of the audiobook, I think I'm just over 2/3, maybe.
And has it been a good read or a good listen to this point?
Yeah, it's interesting. You can really get the vibes of like how films like Star Wars and that have taken from inspiration of this, and other like sci-fi and things like that. You can really tell that a lot of them have taken inspiration from it because it's very much like it's got, you know, the diplomacy of like different factions and stuff like that. It's got the different groups of antagonists and protagonists and stuff like that. It's good. I enjoy it so far.
Did you hear the apparent story that during the making of the first Star Wars, George Lucas was walking around on set, he had Dune?
I would not be surprised. I hadn't heard that before, but
Yeah,
I mean, it's so many similarities. It's not funny. Like,
Yeah,
it's got its own version of like essentially what the Jedi are. It's got the, you know, the difference in, like, you know, they've got the Republic and the Separatists or whatever at the start, and it's got its own version of all of these conflicts. So there's a lot of like heavy similarities between them.
It's interesting, isn't it? Tell me, as a Star Wars man, as a, you know what, Justin, as a lover of space,
I'll take that. I'll take that. I've got a telescope.
You do. Tell me, because Dune it's meant to be set on another planet, correct? Yeah. Okay. Are you, as a Star Wars fan, as a lover of space, are you excited for the film Dune?
Oh, I cannot wait. But I think more than based on what I've read, I'm excited because it's from who's making it. Dennis, whatever his last name is, I can't pronounce.
Have a crack at it, mate. Go on, have a crack at it, and I'll pull it up to try and have a worse crack.
Let me pull it up because I want to have an okay go at it.
Yeah, I think it starts with V, his last name,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Dennis Villeneuve.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So I imagine it's like, I don't want to do a French accent. I can't. I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, no, look, I would have pronounced it the same way, so I'm happy to go with that.
Yeah, but I mean, his style is just aesthetic.
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful. Like Blade Runner, just Arrival, Sicario. There's so much emphasis on like what you see, and based on the fact that this is basically all in a desert, the colors and scenery is just going to look amazing.
Well, that's what gives me such hope, especially having seen Blade Runner. Was it 2049? Is that what it's called? 2090?
2049.
2049. The cinematography of that was freaking out of this world. Like, I thought it was just amazing. It was beautifully shot. And so to hear what the concept of Dune is, it seems like somebody watched Blade Runner and said, you know what, we should get him for Dune, assuming he wasn't already signed on for it. Yeah. It seems perfect. Seems like a really good match. I'm keen, very keen on it. So it follows Dune, for those that don't know, and kind of me anyway. Dune follows, is it one young guy? Is that the idea?
Without trying to give anything away, even though I'm still not at the end of it, it's kind of based around this kid and his mum. And it's their family as a whole, and they live on this really nice, like, fancy world, and they purchase or get the rights to take over this desert world, which is like a spice mining place, and spice is just basically an extremely wealthy mineral, like as if they were going to somewhere to dig for oil. And so they take over this place, but then it's like, you know, there's bad people there as well, and there's the conflict between different groups that are there, and it's kind of about the mum and the son surviving all of this stuff that goes wrong. And that's a really bad pitch, but
wow,
it's really
So tell me though, is the mum and the son, are they really wealthy in the world that they're from to be able to buy that? Oh,
the head of a house. I guess. If you think Game of Thrones style, they're like the heads of their house. And then, or is that what they're called in that? Yeah, the heads of their house. You didn't watch that much Game of Thrones, so this is probably lost on you. But people listening will know.
The audience for this will have watched it, so that's fine. That's fine.
We tried to episode.
That's not really what I assumed it was about, but that's cool. And then, so when, he obviously goes to this planet, he's faced with all these, what were you sort of saying? The big bads and the resistance. Well, not the resistance. Not the resistance. No. They're the good guys in Star Wars.
Yeah, and it kind of becomes the same thing. Like, they kind of form their resistance and are fighting back. But the kids kind of, the mum's part of this, like, order of, I don't know, people call them, like, witches. They, alike them to witches. They've got they're just, like, really smart, and they can sense problems in people. They can kind of read your emotions and stuff like that. And the boy who's born is kind of given a few of these gifts, and normally these gifts are only ever for girls, and so he's a bit of a messiah amongst the people, but he doesn't really know it. And everything happens. It's it's a big book, so a lot happens.
Who is playing the main character?
Timothy Chalamet.
I would pay that. I thought so, because now you say that, and I'm wondering, is there meant to be a bit of a feminine, slant to the character? Because he has some feminine attributes. He's got the soft jawline, that sort of thing.
Yeah, he's definitely considered as not, like, strong or manly. Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I want to know, though, is it kind of sounds like the mother and son would be the bad guys of this. And these people that they're up against are trying to protect their planet, which they see as theirs. When these rich people are coming in to mine it, that to me, is it positioned that way, or is it...
Well, I've kind of left out a hell of a lot of information by trying not to give things away. So,
okay. So pretty much, it's probably...
a bit of that to it, okay. Absolutely. But there's a lot more to it as well. And what I would take away from this is, don't listen to a pitch from me for any...
Yeah, look, to be honest, I'll probably see the movie and then evaluate if I want to read the book, because, it'll be a condensed version, even though I'm pretty sure the film will be at least 3 hours. I think I read somewhere it's going to be quite long. Yeah,
I just don't want them to split it up. I'm sick of people splitting movies, like a book, into 3 movies, like something like The Hobbit. That's just a disappointment. Like, it's just a pure disappointment.
Justin, you know what? You've got my word here, and you can hold me accountable.
Okay.
In this lockdown period, in this second wave for Victoria and Australia, I'm going to watch all the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits.
Have you not watched them before?
Never seen one, Justin. It's amazing that I host this podcast sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. This has raised a lot of questions.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. That's going to be something I really set myself the goal of doing.
Well, in that case, watch The Hobbits first, because they're a prequel anyway, and they're worse. So you're only setting yourself up to watch better stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a good way of doing it.
As old as the Lord of the Rings movies are, they still stand the test of time amazingly.
Okay. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do those back to back, I think. Have you got anything maybe you could set yourself as a challenge just now? Like something that maybe you haven't got around to that you think this could be a good opportunity?
I don't know where to start.
I'm trying to think if I've ever tried to get you to watch anything.
Well, we were talking the other day about binge. So
yeah.
I'm thinking I'm going to cancel my Disney Plus, but I want to show Mum Hamilton first. So next time I go over there, I'll do that, and then I'll cancel it.
Yep. Good.
After that, I'm going to get binge and check what's there.
Okay. I've got one recommendation for binge that I can already throw at you. It's called McMillions, the documentary about the McDonald's monopoly fraud, which cost McDonald's something like, I think they said like 20 million across a certain amount of years. Yep, get it down. And here's my pitch, everybody settle in. So it was from, I think in the 80s, Monopoly started, all right? And then after a certain amount of time, I think it was in the mid-90s, mind you, I'm only 2 episodes in, so I can't go too in-depth, but
Yeah.
a ring started where somebody had worked out how to rig the system, and they had found it was somebody within McDonald's, somewhere within the line of McDonald's and the whole Monopoly system, because there was some outsourcing done. Anyway, somebody had worked out how to rig the system, and they started getting all their friends or family or anyone they might know, which was distant enough where it would be hard to trace, getting them involved and helping them win. Million here, million there, all these different people. And then the FBI had a tip-off from somebody saying, this has been rigged, this is how they're doing it. And this documentary brings up everything about how they did it, and it just uncovers it all. And the good thing about it is, the FBI agent that led the charge on it is incredibly charismatic. It's how he's an FBI agent, I'm not too sure. Like, this guy walked into the first meeting with McDonald's representatives in a gold suit, and he's an FBI agent. I know, ridiculous. But yeah, what I find interesting is that this court case, where this was all revealed, which would have been front page news, happened in 2001 in September, during September 11. So it was pushed right to the back.
I was going to say, I'd never heard about this before.
This is why no one heard about it. It's one of the biggest cases of fraud ever. McDonald's, one of the biggest global franchises ever. And it was pushed to the back because of September 11. So it got overshadowed. A lot of people don't know anything about it, but it's fascinating how they rigged it and the extent they went to cover it up, but how the FBI trapped them into, incriminating themselves in the process was really good. So they run a Monopoly game with the intention of, we know they're going to rig it, but let's catch them in the act.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I'll jump on it.
Jump on that.
McDonald's just brought up the founder. Did you ever watch that?
Yes, that is such a great movie.
Yeah.
You watched it, did you?
Yeah. You just reminded me of it then, and I was just, I'd watch that again. It was brilliant.
Yeah, that's Michael Keaton at his best there. That was a really good movie, and I tell you, both of these things, as well as Super Size Me, all just make you want McDonald's so bad.
Really?
Yeah, no, it makes you want it. It makes you, even Super Size Me, fun fact, does make me want McDonald's. It completely defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just a reverse psychology game that they're using that actually does make people want it.
Maybe. Look, mate, there's your challenge. I've got my challenge for this isolation lockdown. And look, I'm probably going to have you on the podcast a couple more times, catch up on where you're up to. I'll fill you in on Lord of the Rings, see how I'm going with it.
You need to have them all done. I'll finish this season. That's fine. This series, that's fine. You need to watch all of them. And you need to watch the cuts as well. That's you got 40 hours ahead of you.
I was about to say, I've just given you 4 hours of content to go and watch, and I'm gonna go and watch 40. So it's definitely fair.
Good luck.
All right, mate. Thanks for jumping on. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See you later.
There you go. Another episode done. Thank you to Justin. Thank you to Zoom for powering the show. Like this, freaking sponsoring us or something. Back into lockdown we go. Look, take care of yourself out there. Hit up the back catalogue of the podcast if you're so inclined. You can do that on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, the Cheeky Leprechaun website, cheekyleprechaun.com.au. Find it there, as well as other stuff. Keep yourself entertained, guys. Don't go stir crazy. Pick up a comic book. Find something new. Dive into something you're unfamiliar with. I swear I'm already starting to just repeat things I said during the last lockdown. So I'm going to stop it there, guys. Have a good week.
This has been a Cheeky Leprechaun production.